In the early days of the war, a new and terrifying weapon began to claim ships in the waters around Britain. Vessels were being sunk in increasing numbers, but there was something deeply mysterious and frightening about these sinkings. The ships were not being struck by torpedoes from submarines, nor by shells from enemy warships, nor by bombs from aircraft. They were being destroyed by mines, but mines unlike any seen before, mines that did not need to be touched to detonate. A ship could pass through waters that appeared clear, never striking anything, and yet a mine would explode beneath it, tearing it apart. It seemed almost like magic, like an invisible and inescapable death lurking in the sea. And the solution that the Allies devised to counter this terrifying weapon was itself a kind of invisible shield, a brilliant scientific response to a deadly scientific threat. This is the story of the magnetic mines and the ingenious defense that overcame them. This is a story about a deadly technological threat and the brilliant scientific response that countered it, about a contest of science and ingenuity waged in the depths of the sea. It is a story about how a mysterious and terrifying weapon was understood and how that understanding led to a clever and effective defense. And it is a story about the crucial role that science and ingenuity played in the war, about how the conflict was won not only on the battlefield but in the laboratory, where brilliant minds devised the means to counter the enemy's deadliest weapons. To understand the terror of the magnetic mines, you have to understand how they differed from the mines that had come before. Traditional naval mines were contact mines, devices that floated in the water and detonated when a ship physically struck them. These were dangerous, but they could be dealt with. They could be swept, cleared from the water, their locations charted and avoided. A ship that did not touch a contact mine was safe from it. The threat they posed, while serious, was understood and could be managed through established methods. The magnetic mines were something entirely different, something far more insidious and difficult to counter. The magnetic mine did not need to be touched to detonate. Instead, it was triggered by the magnetic field of a ship passing nearby. Ships, being made of steel, possess a magnetic field, and the magnetic mine was designed to detect this field and detonate when a ship came within range. This meant that a ship did not have to strike the mine to be destroyed. It merely had to pass close enough for its magnetic field to trigger the mine, which would then explode beneath or beside the vessel, often with devastating effect. The mine could lie on the seabed, invisible and undetectable, waiting for a ship to pass within range of its deadly trigger. The implications of this were terrifying. The magnetic mines could not be dealt with through the traditional methods used against contact mines. They could lie hidden on the seabed, impossible to see, detonating as ships passed overhead. A ship could be sailing through waters that appeared perfectly clear, never striking anything, and still be destroyed by a magnetic mine triggered by its own magnetic field. The mine seemed to offer an inescapable death, a weapon against which there was no apparent defense. And as ships were sunk in increasing numbers, the threat posed by these mysterious weapons grew ever more alarming. Now, we should be honest about the history here, because the magnetic mines and the countermeasures developed against them are a real and well-documented part of the history of the war. What follows is grounded in this genuine history, though we will tell it as a narrative to convey its full significance. The core is true. Germany really did deploy magnetic mines that detonated in response to the magnetic fields of passing ships, and these mines really did pose a serious threat until the Allies developed effective countermeasures, including methods to reduce the magnetic signatures of their ships. The details are recounted to convey the nature of the threat and the ingenuity of the response. The first crucial step in countering the magnetic mines was to understand how they worked. As long as the mechanism of the mines remained a mystery, there could be no effective defense. The Allies needed to understand what triggered the mines, how they detected ships, what caused them to detonate. This understanding came through investigation and analysis through the study of the mines themselves. A critical breakthrough came when a magnetic mine was recovered relatively intact, allowing it to be examined and its mechanism understood. This was a dangerous task, for the mines were designed to detonate, and examining one required great courage and skill. But once a mine had been recovered and studied, its secret was revealed, and the path to a defense became clear. With an understanding of how the magnetic mines worked, the Allies could begin to develop countermeasures. The key insight was that the mines were triggered by the magnetic field of a ship. If that magnetic field could be reduced or neutralized, then the mines would not detonate, and ships could pass safely. This led to the development of methods to reduce the magnetic signature of ships, to make them, in effect, invisible to the magnetic mines. If a ship's magnetic field could be diminished enough, it would not trigger the mines, and it could pass through mined waters in safety. This was the principle behind the invisible shield that would overcome the magnetic mines. The primary method developed to reduce ships' magnetic signatures involved a process designed to neutralize or diminish the magnetic field that ships naturally possessed. By treating ships in a particular way, their magnetic fields could be significantly reduced, making them far less likely to trigger the magnetic mines. This process, applied to ships, served as a kind of invisible shield, protecting them from the mines by reducing the magnetic signature that would otherwise trigger detonation. Ships that had been treated in this way could pass through waters containing magnetic mines with a much reduced risk, the invisible threat neutralized by the invisible shield of their diminished magnetic fields. This countermeasure was brilliantly effective, addressing the threat of the magnetic mines at its root. Rather than trying to find and clear the mines, which was extraordinarily difficult given their nature, the countermeasure made ships safe from the mines by neutralizing the trigger. The mines might still lie on the seabed, but they would not detonate, because the ships passing overhead no longer presented the magnetic signature needed to trigger them. This was a far more practical and effective approach than trying to locate and clear the invisible mines, a solution that addressed the threat by neutralizing its mechanism, rather than by attempting the nearly impossible task of finding the mines themselves. In addition to the methods of reducing ships' magnetic signatures, techniques were also developed to clear the magnetic mines, to trigger them deliberately and safely from a distance. By creating magnetic fields that would trigger the mines without a ship being present, it was possible to detonate them harmlessly, clearing them from the water. These mine-clearing techniques, combined with the methods of protecting ships, provided a comprehensive response to the threat of the magnetic mines. Together, they allowed the Allies to both protect their ships from the mines and to clear the mines from important waters, overcoming the threat that had seemed so terrifying and inescapable. The development of these countermeasures was a triumph of science and ingenuity, a brilliant response to a deadly technological threat. The magnetic mines had posed a serious and mysterious danger, sinking ships through an apparently inescapable mechanism. But through scientific investigation, through understanding how the mines worked, and through the development of clever countermeasures, the Allies overcame the threat. The invisible death of the magnetic mines was countered by the invisible shield of reduced magnetic signatures and the techniques of safe mine clearance. It was a victory won not on the battlefield, but through science and ingenuity. What does the story of the magnetic mines and their countermeasures reveal about the nature of the war and the role of science in it? First and foremost, it demonstrates the crucial importance of science and technology in the conflict, the way that the war was in many respects a contest of scientific and technological capability. The magnetic mines were a product of scientific ingenuity, and the countermeasures that overcame them were equally products of scientific ingenuity. The contest between the mines and the countermeasures was a scientific contest, a battle of understanding and invention. This illustrates the central role that science played in the war, the way that scientific and technological capability could be decisive. The story also illustrates the importance of understanding a threat in order to counter it. The first crucial step in defeating the magnetic mines was to understand how they worked. Without this understanding, no effective defense was possible. It was only by recovering and examining a mine, by understanding its mechanism, that the path to a countermeasure became clear. This illustrates a fundamental principle, that understanding a problem is often the key to solving it, that the path to a solution begins with comprehension of the challenge. The defeat of the magnetic mines began with the understanding of how they worked. Consider, too, the courage involved in recovering and examining the magnetic mines, the dangerous task that made the countermeasures possible. The mines were designed to detonate, and examining one was extraordinarily dangerous. The recovery and examination of a magnetic mine required great courage and skill, a willingness to risk death to understand the threat. This courage was essential to the development of the countermeasures, for it was only through the examination of a mine that its secret was revealed. The brave individuals who undertook this dangerous task made a crucial contribution to overcoming the threat their courage as important as the ingenuity of those who devised the countermeasures. There is a broader lesson here about the power of scientific thinking to overcome seemingly insurmountable problems. The magnetic mines had seemed to offer an inescapable death, a threat against which there was no apparent defense. But through scientific thinking, through understanding the mechanism of the mines and devising clever countermeasures, the threat was overcome. This illustrates the power of the scientific approach, the way that careful investigation and creative problem-solving can overcome even the most daunting challenges. The defeat of the magnetic mines is a testament to the power of science and ingenuity to solve problems that seem impossible. It is worth reflecting on the way that the contest between the magnetic mines and the countermeasures exemplifies the dynamic nature of technological warfare. The enemy developed a new and deadly weapon, and the Allies responded by developing countermeasures to overcome it. This back and forth, this dynamic of weapon and counterweapon, is a fundamental feature of technological warfare. No weapon remains unbeatable forever, and the development of a new threat spurs the development of countermeasures. The magnetic mines and the response to them illustrate this dynamic, the constant contest of innovation and counter-innovation that characterizes technological conflict. Consider as well the importance of the magnetic mine countermeasures to the broader war effort, particularly to the crucial struggle to keep the sea lanes open. Britain depended on shipping for its survival, on the ability to import the supplies it needed to sustain itself and to wage war. The magnetic mines threatened this vital shipping, posing a serious danger to the sea lanes on which Britain depended. By overcoming the threat of the magnetic mines, the countermeasures helped keep these vital sea lanes open, contributing to the broader effort to sustain Britain and to wage the war. The defeat of the magnetic mines was thus of real strategic importance, helping to secure the shipping on which so much depended. The story of the magnetic mines and their countermeasures also reveals the often unsung contribution of scientists and engineers to the war effort, the crucial work done away from the battlefield. The defeat of the magnetic mines was achieved not by soldiers in combat, but by scientists and engineers who understood the threat and devised the countermeasures. Their contribution, while less visible than the heroism of the battlefield, was nonetheless vital to the war effort. This illustrates the important role played by the scientists and engineers who worked to counter the enemy's weapons, the unsung heroes whose ingenuity helped win the war. Their work, carried out in laboratories and workshops, was as crucial in its way as the fighting on the front lines. The defeat of the magnetic mines stands as one of the notable scientific achievements of the war, a brilliant response to a deadly technological threat. The magnetic mines had posed a serious and mysterious danger, an apparently inescapable death lurking in the sea. But through scientific investigation and clever countermeasures, the threat was overcome, the invisible death countered by an invisible shield. It stands as a testament to the power of science and ingenuity, to the crucial role they played in the war, and to the brilliant minds who devised the means to counter the enemy's deadliest weapons. By the end of the war, the countermeasures developed against the magnetic mines had long since overcome the threat they posed, protecting countless ships and helping to keep vital sea lanes open. The mysterious and terrifying weapon that had once seemed to offer an inescapable death had been defeated by the ingenuity of scientists and engineers, by the understanding of how the mines worked, and the development of clever countermeasures. The magnetic mines and their defeat stood as a testament to the scientific dimension of the war, to the contest of ingenuity waged in laboratories and on the seas, and to the brilliant minds whose work helped secure victory. So remember the magnetic mines, the terrifying weapon that detonated in response to the magnetic fields of passing ships, claiming vessels through an apparently inescapable mechanism. Remember the mystery and terror they posed, the ships destroyed without being struck, the invisible death lurking on the seabed. Remember the brilliant response that overcame them, the understanding of how the mines worked, the development of methods to reduce ships' magnetic signatures, the invisible shield that protected ships from the invisible death. And remember the deeper lessons the story teaches about the crucial role of science and ingenuity in the war, about the importance of understanding a threat in order to counter it, and about the unsung scientists and engineers whose brilliant work carried out away from the battlefield helped to overcome the enemy's deadliest weapons and secure the victory.